CEOs, CHOs, and a new OS for your Mac. Tech News Tonight is next.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Tonight, episode 435 for Wednesday, September 30th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Epson's new EcoTank printers. With Epson's line of SuperTank all-in-one printers, you can print thousands of documents without running out of ink. EcoTank is loaded and ready to print when you are. Visit epson.com/ecotank to find out more. Welcome, I am Megan Maroney. Joining me today is Natalie Morris. Natalie is an on-air contributor for CNBC and The Today Show. She's been a writer and anchor or a show host for CNET, CBS, CNN, ABC, Fox News, Wired, TechCrunch, G4 TV, Twit, and many other outlets. Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you.
So you say right now your most important job is as your chief home officer, CHO, for the Morris family. Tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah, so I started to do some personal finance reporting and writing on my own personal site because I've been a tech reporter for just so long. But when I went freelance, I really just fell in love with personal finance. And so I decided to share what I know on my own personal site. So if you go to nataliemorris.com and click on the blog, that's sort of my passion project right now.
Well, I tried to find some tech-related financial news for us to talk about. So there's a new, not a CHO, but a new CEO over at Twitter, apparently, according to Kara Swisher and Kurt Wagner at Recode. Their sources say that Jack Dorsey will be named the CEO as early as tomorrow. What do you think about this? Have you been following this story?
I have, yeah. And I've actually met him a time or two at sort of various tech events. And I find him to be extremely likable. I think he's really committed. He's the kind of guy where, like, you kind of try and make small talk and, you can tell he's laser focused on what he wants to tell you and the message that he's got. But as far as, like, what he wants for Twitter, it's interesting because Twitter has had the same narrative as YouTube for so long. It's like super useful, a lot of people. How is it profitable? Right. So we're still waiting for those narratives to be played out. And whether the guy who, thought it up can do that remains to be seen. But I think he's one of the darlings of the Silicon Valley. If anyone has a good shot at it, it's him.
Right. Well, and, he runs Square, of course. That's the company he started after leaving Twitter. And the board at first said that, if he continued to run Square, he couldn't run Twitter. But, these sources are saying that he is going to continue to run Square and also run Twitter. Do you think that's possible?
It's hard to say. It depends on the infrastructure he has in place in both. I don't think he's gone that far from Twitter. Even while he's been running Square. There's been times when I've sort of asked for him in various interviews at Square and at Twitter, and I've been told he's not far, but not accessible for this interview. Maybe that means I'm just not important enough. Like someone higher, like a Katie Couric could get to him, but not me, which is fine. But, I've always got the sense that he has had a foot in both worlds for a really long time.
Yeah, I think that it'll be interesting because there was a deal that they announced last week that seemed very seamless between Twitter and Square. It was you could donate to politicians using Square through Twitter.
Yeah.
And usually it seemed like those kind of deals took a while. They announced them, but it was so seamless that you just wondered, well, it seems like they're already working a little bit together.
Yeah, it's kind of obvious, right? It's like, why didn't we think of that?
Right.
Long time ago.
Yeah, it'll also be interesting because they've been dragging their feet. A lot of people have been blaming the board, and now some of those sources at Recode say that there will be a shakeup at the board next. And Dick Costolo, the former Twitter CEO, he was on the board, and they suspect that he will no longer be on the board very soon.
The board of Twitter, is that what we're talking
yes,
about?
Yes,
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, the board of Twitter.
Yeah. There hasn't been sort of the nice, like, we all get along and have the same vision story about Twitter in a long time. And, if you'll remember that Jack Dorsey and who's the other founder of Twitter? It's on Biz.
Ev Williams.
Ev Williams, yeah. I knew it was like some monosyllabic name. That they started it as like a text messaging company, maybe they had some like bigger vision of it that we just haven't seen implemented yet.
Right. Well, so today's other big news is that Sheryl Sandberg and the Lean In Foundation and McKinsey & Company released the Women in the Workplace 2015. It's a report on the state of women in the business world. Among other findings, the analysis says that the current pace of progress, we're more than 100 years away from gender equality in the C-suite. She said that if NASA launched a person into space today, she could soar past Mars, travel all the way to Pluto, and return to Earth 10 times before women occupy half of the C-suite offices. What do you think about this report?
You know, the most interesting part that stuck with me is that women don't necessarily want to be in the C-suite. She said that women don't want it, but not necessarily because we want to pay attention to our families or our personal lives, but because we know what it's like there. We don't romanticize it. We know that it'll be a lot of pressure. There'll be a lot of stress that, you know, and maybe it made me think like, well, are you being overly idealistic for wanting it for us then? You know, maybe those jobs are just like unilaterally so crappy that no one should want them. Men, female, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, that is, a good
Maybe
point.
the corporate culture needs to change across the board, not just on the gender structure. You know, like we see all of this blowback for people, for companies who are saying like, we want a better work-family balance. We want, you know, to have a place where it's less stress. We have meditation experts coming into the corporate world now. We have people like increasingly taking time off. And, you know, I think that the corporate world just seems so inhospitable to humans, not just women.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, that ambition gap is interesting. I mean, I'm part of the opt-out generation. I didn't really opt out, but I mean, it was, you know, just go freelance as we both did. It was easier. And a lot of people just said, oh, they're doing that because they want to care about their family. They care about their family. They want to take care of their family. And it's true, but it's possible to do both. And I think what this report is saying is that it's not just that we're leaving to take care of our family. It's because the path to leadership is stressful and there's not as much to be gained from that. We see that. And I think some men are not allowed to opt out as easily as women are.
Yeah. And one of the things that really stuck with me when I read her book, which I appreciated very much, is that one, she's not 110% comfortable with all her choices when it comes to family and career, but she just has to balance them every day. And every day you have to say, this is what works for me today. But she doesn't feel like she has it right. And she says, you know, we have to make sacrifices about our family. One that really stuck with me, she said, you know, I don't know all my kids' classmates' names. Some of my colleagues, like they put their kids to sleep in their school clothes for the next day in order to make it happen. And to me, those are the kind of things that are not an acceptable trade-off. I don't feel like I could live a happy life feeling so stressed out that I have to dress my kids the night before to even get them out the door, or that I can't be bothered to learn their classmates' names. I mean, for me, if you're in a family, you need to know each other's coworkers' names. And for my kids, their classmates are their coworkers. And I didn't think, and that was a really intimidating narrative for me, that those are the things that you may have to sacrifice. But for me, I was like, no, I don't think so. And, you know, to take a all-day job and not have the flexibility, it spoke to me a lot. And I think that, you know, you being the opt-out generation and then sort of slowly opting back in, we have to do what she does. We have to negotiate the balance every day.
Mm-hmm. So you've been writing a lot about money, managing your family finances. Let's talk about the new chip deadlines for retailers tomorrow, that they start tomorrow. If companies don't update their payment system, they will be on the hook for paying if there's fraud, where generally the bank was on the hook for it. And if you're a victim of fraud, nothing will change for you, of course. What do you think about these new chips in the credit card?
Well, it's interesting. It's an extra layer of security, but it's still a very old infrastructure. I've sort of wanted to see the change at the payment level, more on the, like, what's the acronym? B2B side rather than like the consumer side. You know, to add security to us is one thing, but there needs to be more security in the back end. And so but the data will tell. The data will tell if it works or not. But there will be some confusion. Like, why am I getting a new chip? I think people will think that maybe they already have been compromised. So we'll see how it works.
Now, do you use Apple Pay or Android Pay or any of them?
Yeah, I do.
It's interesting to me how far we still have to come with that. When I was buying my iPhone over the weekend, I paid with my watch. I paid with the Apple Watch at the Apple Store. And the genius at the Apple Store was shocked. He was like, wow, that's amazing. And I said, you work at the Apple Store and this is an Apple Watch. Like, they're still finding it amazing. So I still think we have a far way to go. But I think that's just much more secure. What's annoying to me is that it was supposed to be the chip and pin, but it's still the chip and signature, which I just don't. And when I still use my watch, I still have to sign, and it doesn't make any sense. I'm just scratching on the thing. I don't even know why they still use the signature.
Yeah, I think, what's that podcast called? The Meaning of Everything, or I can't remember the name of the podcast now. I'll try and text it to you for your show notes. But I recently listened to a podcast. It might have even been a Slate personal finance podcast about how the reason the signature is like the way we authenticate. And there used to be people in banks actually comparing the signature on your check to the signature on your signature card when you opened it. But now it's like less than 0.001% of signatures actually get checked. And some people like write a line or just do an X. It's almost never verified. So it's such a pointless step.
It really is. I used to write Santa Claus or Smurfette just to see if anyone was paying attention, and no one ever is.
I sign with my left hand sometimes. I think originally it had to do, the origin of the signature had to do with marriage, that you could authenticate like who you, in the Jewish faith, that it came from like the way Jews authenticated their marriage through a signature that you could, and it had to do with the witnesses or something like that. But yeah, it's stupid in this day and age when like we can bio-authenticate with our fingerprint or something so personal as that. But the fact that like I could have my 2-year-old just scribble, that makes no sense.
So speaking of your 2-year-old, tell us about some of the articles that you have up on how to manage your family finances.
So I've started to write a little bit about investing, specifically this sort of hack where I have my 3-year-old opened up a Roth IRA, and specifically how they earn income to qualify for this kind of tax-protected savings. I thought that was kind of a fun one. And then I talk a lot about like managing your funds, managing your passwords, managing finance within your family. I think the chief home officer moniker is something that marketers use to target the decision maker and financial decision maker in the house. And I thought, well, why don't we just take this on as like an empowerment tool? Because so many of us try and manage our finances, but then some of it gets too confusing. And so I figure we just sort of call ourselves chief home officers. Nothing can scare us. We're going to learn it all together.
Well, Natalie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Natalie Morris is at nataliemorris.com. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Thank you for the invitation. Any old time.
All right. Take care. Coming up, Facebook solves the problem of stale profile pictures. And how much would you pay for Tesla's Falcon Wing doors? But first, this episode is brought to you by Epson. Epson's revolutionary EcoTank line of printers for home and office introduce a new age in printing. The new EcoTank ET4550 wireless all-in-one printer doesn't use ink cartridges. Instead, it features an innovative refillable ink tank. It comes with enough ink to print up to 8,500 pages, equivalent to about 50 ink cartridge sets. You're loaded and ready to print for up to 2 years. Powered by Epson's leading-edge precision core technology, it delivers high-speed, vivid colors and laser-quality black text and easy wireless printing from tablets and smartphones. All EcoTank printers deliver an unbeatable combination of convenience and value with ultra-low-cost replacement ink bottles. Now you have the freedom to print without running out of ink. Visit Epson.com/EcoTank today to transform the way your home, office, or work group prints. For the best combination of ease and value, turn to the new Epson EcoTank printers. That's EPSON.com/EcoTank. And we thank Epson for their support. The newest operating system for your Mac is now available to download. OS X El Capitan brings more refinements than major feature additions, although there are updates to Safari, Mail, Notes, Maps, and Photos. The upgrade is free in the App Store and is compatible all the way back to mid-2007 iMacs. Facebook is testing a few new features that will let you add a little bling to your profile. The improvements are targeted at mobile users and designed to help you show people who you are, or at least who you very desperately want people to think you are. Soon you'll be able to use an animated GIF as your profile pic and to set temporary profile pics that automatically revert to your standard picture, so you can avoid having to decide when it's appropriate to stop using your picture to support your latest political cause. There will also be a new space on the top of your profile that you will get to customize any way you want. A small number of Facebook users in the UK and California are testing the features, and they will roll out to more people soon. Tesla CEO Elon Musk unveiled his new Model X at an event at his factory last night. The newest all-electric vehicle from Tesla is an SUV that will go from 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. It has a third row of seats for the little ones and those fancy falcon wing doors that help you sneak in to even the slimmest of parking spaces. Journalists who've had a chance to ride in the Model X say it is well worth the $132,000 price tag. Now, Ars Technica has a story today about a man who has a cable bill that is bigger than yours, I hope. Wisconsin web developer Cole Marshall had plans to buy an empty lot and build a house on it. He needs high-speed internet access, so he first called the local cable company to confirm that he could get internet access to his new home. They promised relatively fast DSL with Telco Frontier Communications, but when it came time to deliver, the only offer of fast enough service was from Charter, and they said he would have to pay a whopping $117,000 to cover the cost of extending its network to his home. Now, apparently this happens a lot. Ars says promises from broadband providers are not guarantees, as customer service representatives could be relying on incorrect information. And thanks to TM204 for posting this story in the Tech News Today subreddit. If you're on Reddit, get in there and post some stories. Vote up the ones you want to see on the show. I check it every day, and so does Mike for Tech News Today. And finally tonight, brain-computer interface technology has allowed a paralyzed man to walk again. You might have heard of brain-computer technology, or BCI as it's called, if you watch the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. According to Tech Insider, that is what allowed a man who was paralyzed from the waist down to kick a ceremonial goal. Now a paraplegic has used BCI to walk. An electroencephalogram, or EEG cap, presses flat metal discs against the scalp in order to measure electrical impulses from the brain. The cap wirelessly delivers the impulses to a computer that uses an algorithm to determine what signals are focused on walking. And that is it for this edition of Tech News Tonight. You can find us on Facebook. Last night when we were talking about Google's new Pixel C tablet, I made the comment that previous Pixels were largely unpopular. All About Android host Ron Richards took some umbrage with this comment and pointed out that the original Chromebook Pixel was unpopular, but he says the last Pixel was not. Thank you, Ron. And if you want to hear more about Ron's thoughts on all the Google announcements yesterday, watch episode 233 of All About Android at twit.tv. And you can subscribe to this show at twit.tv/TN2. You can write to us at TN2 and you can watch live every weekday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And don't miss our morning news program, Tech News Today, every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I am Megan Maroney. Thanks for watching.
Bandwidth for Tech News Tonight is brought to you by CashFly.com.